Oh, yeah. I mean,
with the
we
card
showed
art.
off his
All right,
concept
everybody.
art. There's
We're
again,
here
you
for
can see all
the
the different
Shiva
things about him, whether
reveal
it's his
here.
iconic
Saying
clothes,
Shiva because that's how they
the
keep
different
saying it. I don't know if
facades,
that's
like
a
ring around him,
accurate
all the
pronunciation or
different
not.
pieces
Anyway,
of
we're
armor
right
within
here
his
about
body.
to get a look at him in game.
Absolutely gorgeous. Oh, and here we
And
are
there
in
he is in
game.
game.
Here he is with the 4 arms.
Oh,
I'm hoping the
absolutely
desktop
awesome.
audio
Yeah,
is not
so
too
beautiful.
loud. I can turn them down just a little bit.
So I guess it's a good opportunity to actually talk about a little bit of the things that are the iconic items that and just parts of his model, because we went through not just painstaking research, because
think
a
that's
lot of this
good,
is things that we
probably.
knew we needed to bring into the game. So whether that's the matted hair that he has with the top knot that you can see,
He does have
actually
a pretty good
pin through it
design.
because it's actually holding the river Ganges.
Got that top
within it.
knot, nice
The blue skin, but as well as a
clothes.
slightly deeperly blue throat, which
Don't
is
really know what to call
based
it.
on his stories of the poison. Of course, he's got his snake
Here he
buddy
is
with
from
him as well,
behind.
which is actually integral there. We've got the horizontal lines in his forehead, the vertical eye, and I'm going to go through these a little bit. The crescent moon in his headdress. We've got his trident, which is Damaru drum.
Indicated
We've got
this
the
is a
Agni
pretty
fire.
lore
We've
accurate
got
design.
the meditation
They
beads
had
with the tiger
somebody
skin. There's just
they
so
were
much love that we've
working
put
with to
into
make
bringing
sure
Shiva
that
into the game, and we're
they
really
were
excited.
accurate to the information
Well, awesome. If y'all
in the
think we're in a
source
good
material
moment,
that they had.
let's just see a showcase of the abilities.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Knock it out. Let's show them off.
Who abilities? Whoa, bro, teleport. Bruh. Dude, he does a lot of cool stuff. Oh, his ult's got different forms, bro. What?
This is so awesome. I'm getting chills just from the sound effects and the visuals.
Dude.
Yes.
His 2 is
Alright.
so...
The visuals, the particles, the animation, so
Oh.
much love from all departments.
Absolutely.
Literally
I don't know.
firing on
First of all, his
cylinders
1 is that's pretty cool.
constantly.
The teleporting
let's
thing.
just start off. Let's go through everything. Let's
Then
start
he's
off
got
with the
that big
basic things.
knock-up.
Let's talk through that.
The 3
So, yeah,
had a
Shiva does
cone
actually
I
have
designed that
basic
I've never
attacks, like
seen
you can see
before
the normal spear or lance user, the 16
for
foot
its
range.
hitbox,
He does have
which
a
is
basic
cool.
attack chain as well, so that third hit will be a meteor hit, while the second one will be slightly weaker.
Is that
He's
little
also,
jump?
yeah, of course, he's a physical warrior, as we've mentioned in the Closer Look blog. I know
Yeah.
people were a little bit confused, and there's some people saying he's an assassin. No, he's a physical warrior. Although we expect him to be played in potentially different lanes, but we can talk about that again towards the end.
Yeah, awesome. Well, then let's get.
What's that
into,
mean,
what about the
guys?
passive?
What did y'all
So,
do?
Samsara,
Why is it
you
going to
said?
be in different
Yeah,
lanes?
Samsara. It is the idea of the
Besides
the
support.
cyclicality of the universe. That is going to be his gameplay hook. It's going to be what we talked about in the Closer Look blog. He's a state switcher more than he is a stance switcher, and that you can see in his passive.
Of course, his passive is the big thing.
Of bliss and destruction, and you can go through these by dealing damage to enemy gods with the different attacks and abilities. There's basically
Okay,
two components.
two parts
to
of
the
it,
states.
bliss and
One is just a
destruction.
primary buff or debuff state. So if you're in
Okay.
bliss, you're going to be providing HP5 and MP5 buff aura to yourself and allies. If you're in
Ooh,
destruction,
HP5
you're doing
MP5
the
buff.
reverse to enemies. You're going to be decreasing their HP5.
Oh,
and
so
MP5,
when you're in the blue, you get
around
the buff.
But playing off of
HP5,
that state,
MP5,
for
and the
abilities,
red,
is
it's
that
a
each one of his
debuff on
abilities
enemies.
outside of his ultimate will be
That's
providing
cool.
different utility effects depending on which state he's in. So the abilities themselves won't be changing.
His
and you're gonna
ultimate
see if you
does
look at the
different
passive notes,
things
you're
based
going,
on
Why
that.
does he have so many different things? It's because you're going to basically be switching between different
Pretty
utility effects.
cool.
And I'll go through each one of those as we continue on with the abilities.
Awesome. Well,
It's
that
like
seems
there's a
good
good
time
amount of
continue
depth
forward
to
into
his
first
kit,
ability, Emblazoned Sweep.
but it's not too complicated.
Yeah, so his first ability, it's I want to say these are pretty simple, but when you put everything together, it's not quite so simple. But
Oh, that's his first ability.
Shiva is kind of enhancing his trident, the Trishula, with the fire of Agni, which is what he's holding in his hands, as he spins it around him, dealing damage.
What?
and
He's just
pulling
got the
in
fire of
other
Agni,
enemies.
bro? What?
When he spins around the trident, he's also leaving behind a firewall at the edge. That deals
Ooh.
damage to enemies if they're inside of it. It's not
Dude,
a
that's a
dodge,
nice fire,
but if you
too.
cross within the threshold, you'll take damage.
You
They
take
kinda like
damage when you
measures
cross
against it.
the
Now,
fire,
the
and then it's
spin
got a
deals damage,
knock-up.
The damage on the fire, of course, is there.
With
And
some
going
big
into the
damage,
passive a little bit more, if
239.
you're in the bliss state, so you can see that right now, the fire has a
That's
little bit
good
of that
damage.
movement
I don't know if the
speed.
Odin
That's
bots
because
mitigate.
if Shiva or his allies cross through that fire, they'll actually gain a movement speed buff. Now, if we switch to destruction state, enemies who go through that will actually be getting their protections reduced for a short duration.
What?
So
In destruction,
that's
oh,
how
and
the
it's just
passive
red
works. In
fire.
destruction, the allies no longer gain that movement speed buff, but the enemies gain
Also,
utility debuff
okay, so it
instead.
goes,
Yeah,
now
like I
it's
said, we'll
in
talk about the different
destruction.
effects on the different abilities, but there's a primary core component, which is the circle pull-in and
He
damage with
goes,
the firewall,
it's a
and then
debuff
either the
now
movement speed buff in Bliss
to
or the protection
enemies, and
reduction
then in
in,
Bliss, it's he
Destruction.
gets an ally buff.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's super awesome, and I love the
It kind of like
thematic,
pulls
destruction
targets a
or,
little bit
creation
too.
It's just absolutely So I guess we'll move on
That's
to
a
ability
pretty
number
strong
2, Damaru's Tempo.
CC.
Damaru is that little drum that he's attached
Oh,
to
it's an
a
ability with a
regular trident,
distance
and that's what
chain.
he's gonna be using
Cool.
with the striking his trident in front of him with quite vigor that you can hear the Damaru shake. So what's happening here is you can actually see there's a segmented cone where you can choose which part of that cone you want to have
Boom.
a knockup, really, the enhanced effect.
Also, it just changes where the knockup is
The damage is gonna be
applied.
going in throughout the cone. The knockup will also be hitting.
It's consistent damage though through the whole thing. That's interesting.
The damage in the knockup will always happen. Now for the states, if you're going to be in the bliss state, it's an attack speed.
Good
buff,
fire
always
design
so
again.
you don't have to worry
Pretty
about
good.
it. He'll be gaining that. You can see the little buff that he gains in the tooltip icon, as well as allies. Again, if you actually are using this through enemies and through allies, they'll be gaining an attack speed buff as well. It doesn't matter. The segmentation is only there for the knockup. If he's in the destruction state, it's going to be an attack speed debuff instead. So nothing positive.
Okay, so it's an attack speed buff for allies. It's a debuff for enemies, and that's all based on the passive
Came up with this one in the blog post. This was the ability
type that he is currently using.
Where, we have had.
I do like that. That's not a complicated design. That tells you what you're gonna get.
Has a manual selection of
everything, and it's pretty obvious.
Want to do the bonus effect in, which is a very new effect and has a very unique skill shot element to it that feels natural and you hit it a lot. But if you do get lazy or are careless or you're trying to hit multiple targets, you might make a mistake and have to pay attention.
Yep. So when it does have a little bit of a time before when you select and you've locked in the segment versus when it actually fires. There is that pre-fire target you can see which locks in that segment so you can continue casting and knowing where the knockup is going to be. But just keep that in mind. Also, as you guys can already tell, Shiva has quite a bit of CC in control. It's mostly between.
That means you definitely want that on quick casting.
Less CC in the rest of his kit. But these
Not
are
quick
primarily
casting, I mean
important.
standard
Now,
cast.
Again, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but if you're
So see, that's interesting because it's got that pull on the one, and then you can pop the closest part of the cone. That's a really great chain there. You have to be careful with that timing though, because if you do it too quick, you won't get both knockups. And that's important to know because you can't be DR'd.
A feature that a lot of gods have, but a few within the last few years did not. It's something that essentially what it does is
so next up we have ability number 3, and that's Pillar of Dawn. So let's talk about the
Pillar of Dawn. Pillar. Oh, is it Shiva in Halo?
It's a selection mechanism, so it's kind of like two separate dashes in a way. So you can choose the location where you're going to dash into, and you can choose that can be a short area.
So you're going to dash to the area
Shiva dashes to that
in the center,
pillar, becoming CC immune and taking reduced damage while he's inside there, as well as pulsing kind of an aura.
CC immune and taking reduced damage when they're what?
Damage to enemies.
How long does that last for? 3 seconds?
As well as that aura, which does different things again, going back onto the passive. So if you're
and then the aura around him does a different buff debuff. So does the outside not? Yeah, the outside deals no damage. It's strictly a buff debuff.
He'll gain up to 3 when he leaves, and you can see that as the
area
floating around him. If you're in just
I like the animation though too because it looks cool. Based on what we saw, does he deal damage to enemies he goes through, or can he like cast it again? Oh, it's a fire dot when he's in destruction.
We utilize his stories and his lore and his identity as much as we could, and one of the origination stories of Shiva is that he actually emerged from a pillar of fire, revealing himself to Brahma and Vishnu, and that's something that the design team really just wanted to latch onto, and it just brought such great imagery.
So if you hit an enemy, is it not dependent on if you hit an enemy you can cast again? Is it just okay? No, you can just dash twice. So you don't get it at the end. You get it for the first dash, and then you lose the.
Yes, that's right. So one of the things that I didn't
pillar.
mention is that Shiva, as the many different things, as the primary.
That's pretty cool. It's a good chase tool.
Also a Lord of Dance,
but it's also good if you want to get in front of somebody.
To kind of destroy the world, but also
he's used an ability
to do many different things. But this is it.
That's also a good peel thing. I guess it's peel. I mean, you can dash to your allies and get the buff down for them. But
CC immune for 6 seconds doing his dance, and there's up to 4 different steps that are always
CC immune for 6 seconds.
5-second beats. In the first step, so also I guess before I get ahead of myself, you can see his buff, his ability icons change to the 3 different steps, and you can choose which one you're going to be going into next. So no matter what, there's always going to be the step that is performed at the 1.5-second beat, but you can choose an interchange between them. The first one is a heal for himself and allies, as well as a soft mana restore.
You can change it
the
to
second
the
one is the amplification step, where it does a little bit of damage, a little bit of healing, but also amplifies the radius and the effects of the next step that is performed. So you can see here the radius actually gets bigger. The third one is a damage to enemies as well as a
bigger
shield to enemies.
When he uses the two, and then
which
you go to that for the
dances, and I mean,
more damage. Oh, then it
again,
shrinks.
Our teams did such a fantastic job, whether it's between the effects to the animation.
After you use that,
it's just kind of mind blowing.
Because you only get it for the one. You get the increased size for the one pop. So you pop the two to increase range of the third one, which does the most damage.
He's got his ongoing dancing loop throughout. I mean, really just a kudos to all the teams involved, and I'm going to be talking about that a little bit again later. But for the
so his mode
itself,
between
6 seconds of immunity,
destruction and
speed, CC immunity,
Bliss does not.
And damage.
Okay, so that doesn't really affect his passive.
And that is just, I mean, it's
that
incredible
much
from every angle. It's hard for me to choose what I'm most excited to talk about with this, but I feel like it's worth mentioning.
It's interesting though. That's also a lot of flexibility.
God of Dance is
with that, because if you're in a team fight, you can pop your one to heal your team.
Like, I don't know.
And then if somebody's diving at your team, you can use the other steps to
awesome. And watching that ultimate play out, even when
deal a little bit of damage for them. But God, having two knockups in their kit also is pretty is a pretty strong thing. The combo between his 1 and his 2 is pretty ridiculous.
Easier to use, but between the positioning and the decision making and really min-maxing it, there is a lot to think about in this process, and it does make you vulnerable in many ways, right? It's got movement, it's got
there's a lot of room for min-maxing your
You're
stuff.
Also stuck doing that effect for a while, so if you mistime it, you can really put yourself in a risky position.
But yeah, he does have pretty long abilities. Like his ult is obviously very long. You can cancel it anytime, but it's 6 seconds at the full duration.
If the enemy just leaps away or uses their movement ability, you're gonna have to cancel out of that, wasting the cooldown and kind of try and catch up.
Yeah, there's always
Either way,
to think about wasting your cooldown. So you don't want to pop your ult and then they run away, and then you're like, well, crap, I have to stop my ult now and chase them.
So, do y'all want to get into talking
the range of his 1 is pretty big. You can pull enemies from pretty far away with that.
So
and keep them in front of you, and then chase with your 3. But again, the 3 is that ability puts you out too, because if you want the full benefit from the Pillar of Fire, you have to use the first dash and channel it before you use the second one. I mean, you can use it strictly for movement, but then you're not getting the benefit of the channel of the Pillar.
Just some play in the support role, you know, like with that duality of being a damage dealer, an enemy
duality always puts you in support. That's easy there. But a lot of warriors can run support without much trouble anyway.
Monitor which state you're
and also to keep in mind, we talked about how sort of Gaia could be pretty useful against Shiva. Another thing is, if you
I don't think you'll see him in any role besides that. I don't think you'd see him in jungle. I don't think he could do that.
Of course, we've changed them up with the relic upgrades. That kind of limits what Shiva can do with his ultimate. He kind of is forced into the destruction, because if he tries to use
Anyway, guys, I think we're just gonna call it here. This will be a short video tomorrow, but we saw the abilities, which is what we were after there. So anyway, like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the live reaction to Shiva, or Shiva, or however you're supposed to say it. Hopefully this guy will be coming soon, but it'll probably be at least a couple of weeks. We'll see. There's some skins for you while we are outroing here. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time for some more Smite. Have a good one.